Good morning, everybody. It's exactly 11 a.m. The fire alarm test is luckily finished. I do apologise for that. I'm Will Whitehorn, the Chair of Seraphim Space Investment Trust, and I'm very pleased to welcome you to the company's first annual general meeting ever. I can confirm that a quorum is present, and therefore I declare the meeting open. Before getting on with the formalities, I would like to introduce the non-executive board: Christina McComb,
Hello.
Sue Ingalls, and Angela Lane. I'd also like to introduce the investment management team looking after your investments on a day-to-day basis. Mark Boggett. I don't think James is able to be with us.
He's on his way here.
But he's on his way. James Brugger will be joining us. Sarah Shackleton is over here. And there are other representatives from Seraphim Space Investment Trust. Firstly, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank all of you for investing and subscribing in the IPO on the 14th of July 2021. I'd also like to thank the company's investment managers, advisors and other service providers and my fellow directors for all their efforts that contributed to a successful launch and to the operation of the company since then. Despite the volatility, which I'm afraid continues to impact markets globally and will do for some time to come, the board is pleased with the progress made to date with the investments and believes that the company is well placed to achieve its investment objective of generating real capital growth over the long term. Our investment manager is actively pursuing an extensive pipeline of investment opportunities and progressing those opportunities that offer the best risk-adjusted returns for our shareholders, with a focus, of course, on the quality of the investment thesis. The board remains confident in the company's outlook for the future and in the continued careful management of the existing portfolio. The company released its Q1 results earlier this morning, and the company's NAV as at the 30th of September 2022 was 250.3 million, which is an increase of 4.6% since the end of June 2022. I'm now going to turn to Mark Boggett, Chief Executive Officer of Seraphim Space Manager LLP, for a brief presentation and a review of the quarter.
Thank you, Will, and thank you to everyone for joining us today. So I've just done a much more detailed review of the results today. So this is a shortened version. The longer version is available on the website. So as Will mentioned, we've had a positive performance quarter, but this positive performance was largely driven by FX gains that were delivered through sterling weakness against the dollar. So the portfolio increased by 21 million during the quarter to 207 million. So we responded quickly to changes in the economic environment at the beginning of the year by reducing our investment activities, and we've been pretty consistent over the last 3 quarters, making investments of around 10 million per quarter. We've made a handful of new investments and follow-on investments this quarter, including a number of new and exciting companies that are added to the portfolio. So we remain heavily focused on supporting our portfolio, and with 44 million of cash and with the portfolio companies being well capitalised, we consider we're in a position to support the portfolio well into 2024. So the cadence of high quality new investment opportunities that are approaching us continues to be high, and we continue to try and invest into selected opportunities, because right now at the bottom of the economic cycle is the right time to be making new investments. We're particularly continually focused on areas such as climate and industries such as insurance. So during the quarter, we've also opened an office in San Francisco, which we're thrilled about. We trade under the name Generation Space in the US market. And we've also opened our new accelerator in the US. So this functions in parallel to our accelerator here in the UK that operates for Europe. So this increases the universe of potential investments for the investment trust. So let's start with the highlights to the 30th of September. So the 30th of September, the share price was 60 pence, a massive 52% discount to the 105 pence of NAV. So this discount is not specific to Seraphim, I'm pleased to say. If you look at the chart on the right-hand side, we've demonstrated our performance versus our AIC peer group. So this is the private growth capital trusts. SSIT is the green line, and it shows the share price performance, and you can see the NAV performance, which is well correlated with the other private growth-focused investment trusts. So the market capitalisation was 145 million, up from 127 million in the last quarter, with the portfolio valued at 207 million, and that's net assets of 250 million, including 43 million of cash. So the trust doesn't have any specific benchmarks, but we've measured ourselves against the FTSE All-Share and Nasdaq, where you can see material underperformance. On the same chart on the left-hand side there, we've also included 2 additional indices that relate to defence and climate, because we believe that these are more correlated with the underlying companies that we invest into. We indicated in the last results that more than 90% of the revenue accruing to our private portfolio in the top 10 comes from defence and climate customers, and this is the reason why we think that that is a reasonable benchmark to hold us against. So this is the activity during the quarter. So we've made a similar cadence to previous quarters: 7 transactions, 3 new investments, and 8.9 million invested. So we're excited about the new company Voyager that we've invested into, because this represents a number of new firsts for the portfolio. First of all, this company is different in that it's being built by a buy and build strategy. So founded in 2018, they've already acquired 8 companies. They're now generating $100 million in revenues, and their EBITDA break even. They're working alongside Lockheed Martin, who are one of 4 companies that have won significant funding from NASA to develop a commercial space station to replace the International Space Station, which will reach its end of life by the end of the decade. So Voyager is a platform for private and public astronauts, but it's also a platform for manufacturing in space. And this is one of the key reasons why we've invested into this business, because it heralds the next generation of opportunity that we believe that space has to offer. Taranis is the other investment, the other new investment that we've made, and this is more aligned with the other types of investments that we're making. So this is a agriculture analytics business, and actually the picture you can see there of a leaf with the red spots is relevant. What they do is they have drones that fly over a farmer's field and identify at the leaf level what's going on with each of the plants. They're identifying the level of nutrition, whether those plants require water, whether they've got a disease or pestilence. And what they're able to do with this data that's generated by the drones is they use that for feeding the algorithms so that they can understand the data from space. So from space, it's possible to see these red dots so that you can identify disease within plants. They've got a really clever business model. Rather than selling this information to the farmer, what they do is they sell this information to the companies that are selling pesticides to farmers. So they effectively act as a business development tool for those companies. They tell them which farmer, which field, and they then go and try and sell them the product. So this has the impact of reducing the amount of pesticide that's being used, which is great news, but it also improves the quality and the yield of the crop. So this company is addressing important areas like food security, but what they're looking to do next is address the area of carbon capture and carbon credits to validate that these credits are real. So the other company that we've invested into is Planet Watchers. So this is a follow-on portfolio company. So this is another company that is using data from space focused on agriculture. They're focused on the insurance market, the crop insurance market. So in the US, crop insurance is a regulated industry. There are 13 companies in the US that provide crop insurance, and this is for farmers who are subjected to extreme weather events, the flooding, the fires, the hurricanes. So what Planet Watchers are able to offer is that at a field level and at a plant level, they can identify damage that's created to the crops. This data is then used as a record of truth by the insurance industries that then use that data in order to be able to pay out claims. So it reduces fraud, and it increases the time to pay out, but also massively reduces the costs associated with a claim. The insurance companies don't need to send people out into the field, and that's really where most of the cost associated with a claim is. So Planet Watches is a really exciting business that we believe is going to continue to grow. So we participated in their A series. We also made a small number of seed investments, a number of them coming through our accelerator associated business. So this is the final chart in my brief summary. So this looks at the top 10 companies. So first of all, let me help you understand a picture of the portfolio by looking at the donuts. So first of all, in terms of stage, Soonicorns. So this is our word for companies that we believe that will be unicorns within a 3-year period. They represent 69% of value. So this is compared against the 9% of value for the listed stocks. But these listed stocks have been really driving our valuation during the course of the last year. In terms of investments across the ecosystem, more than half of the investment is in the data category, 53%. So these are the companies that are satellite constellations. These are the companies that are building the digital infrastructure in space. So you can see the majority of our investment is in that area. In terms of geography, there's a broad spread across the US, UK, and Europe, with about a third of value in each. So turning to net asset value, the table on the right-hand side, the top 10 companies accounted for 70% of the total value. So the NAV of the balance of the other holdings is 13%. Now, we consider that there's a huge amount of future value tied up in that additional part of the portfolio. And then we've got 17.5% in cash, over 40 million. And as I've talked about, given the portfolio companies are well financed, they raised more than $1 billion in the year to the 30th of June. These companies are well financed to the end of 2023, and we're sat on a reasonable amount of additional capital to continue to support those businesses, but also to continue to make new investments, because we believe right now is the optimum time to be building out our portfolio whilst we're at the bottom of this economic cycle. So I will pause there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. Going off script for a minute, the Voyager investment that Mark and the team have made is of particular interest to me because 23 years ago, I went to the Nevada desert outside Las Vegas and met a man called Bigelow, who was an entrepreneur in America, who had actually developed the beginnings of the technology that Voyager now has and has bought. And I actually went into their chamber that they developed, their vacuum chamber, and saw the spaceship inflating with a kind of composite Kevlar material that they were using, which I think they're still probably have developed now. And he even, Bigelow, sent a very small test space station into space, which was about the size of a hand, with a fly inside it. And the fly lived for an extra half a day longer than it would have lived on planet Earth. And I remember that. That Virgin at the time I was working for did not invest in that. But it's great to see, there's usually 20 to 25 years from kind of invention to innovation and commercialization. And this is actually, I think, going to be a very interesting and very commercially developable technology that they've got.
Yeah, well, they're working with Hilton, who are designing their habitat in space, so that it's a place that people want to visit.
So anyway, thank you, Mark. I can now ask if there are any investment-related questions for the investment manager from any of the attendees at the meeting today. Yes, sir. Can you state your name, please?
Edward Imperatori, shareholder. If you could tell us which ones of those companies were the listed stocks. I know Arctic is there. I know Arctic is one.
Yes.
Which ones are the other ones?
So we have Spire Global and AST Space Mobile.
And what was their cost?
I'm afraid I
percentage
don't. They're not in, those other two companies are not in our top 10. So they're in that 13.5% of NAV. And both of those have had significant announcements during the course of the last week. Spire announced that their year-end results, showing that they've got $100 million in revenue, growing at more than 100%. And AST this week announced that their first satellite in space is operational, the largest ever satellite launched into LEO, and it's effectively a cell tower in space that can communicate with any mobile phone without any hardware or software adjustment.
Okay. I don't know if this is the time in the presentation, but I'd be interested in knowing how you calculate the nav, because it doesn't make sense to me.
So, well, I'd be very happy to take that offline. Okay. We also did a detailed presentation to analysts and to the retail that will be on our website in an hour's time, that also goes into detail there, where we've actually explained the valuation methodology, but also the downside protections that we have in our portfolio company around preference shares and around anti-dilution. We've demonstrated that every single one of our top 10 companies has both preference share structure and anti-dilution. We've identified how that supports the valuations going forward. So if we could take that offline, I'll speak to you about that in detail.
And indeed, one of our companies, Arkit, which you probably don't know this yet, Mark, but it was announced this morning that they'd won Cybersecurity Company of the Year in the United States overnight.
Okay, well,
so
that's good
news.
news.
A new bit of news. Okay, any further questions from any shareholders? Okay, I'm now going to propose to turn to the business of the day. As is customary, I will take the notice convening the meeting published on the 19th of October 2022 as read. Prior to the deadline for the receipt of proxy votes, we received 50 proxies appointing the chair of the meeting to be their proxy, representing 79,507,681 shares. Where discretion has been granted to the chair, I intend to vote those in favour. Resolutions 1 to 10 are ordinary resolutions and as such require a simple majority of votes in favour to be passed. Resolutions 11 to 13 are special resolutions and as such require a majority of 75% of votes cast in favour to be passed. I demand a poll for all resolutions in accordance with Article 99 of the Company's Articles of Association, and we will now proceed to the poll demanded on all resolutions. Computershare will act as a scrutineer of the poll. I would like to advise you of the following with regard to completion of the aforesaid poll cards. If you have already submitted a proxy card to the registrar and do not wish to change your vote, please do not complete the poll card. If you are voting as a third-party proxy for corporate or corporate representative, please also write the full name of the person or company you have been appointed to represent. If you know the number of shares which you hold or representing, or if you are voting on a lesser number of shares than the total holding, please write this number in the top corner of the card. If two or more persons are jointly registered as shareholders, any one of these may vote, but only one. In the event that more than one joint shareholder votes, the vote of the senior joint shareholder will be accepted to the exclusion of the other. Seniority will be determined by the order in which the names appear on the register. Please remember to sign your poll card, otherwise your vote will not be counted. The votes cast will be verified under the scrutiny of Computershare. Does any member have any questions on the resolutions themselves? I'll take that as a no, and we will now proceed with the poll, and the final results of the voting will be published via a stock exchange RNS announcement this afternoon and will also be posted on our website this afternoon. Since there are no further items of official business on the agenda, I declare the poll closed and ask Computershare to tabulate the voting results. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of today's formal proceedings. I declare the meeting closed and thank you very much for attending.